So 3, 2, 1.
Sandra Roscoe and I welcome you all to our American Indian Committee, gathering dreams, sharing rhythms of the heart through Native American family traditions, storytelling, music, art, drama, and dance. We are here today to celebrate all that each of you and your chapters have accomplished this past year. Thank you for your wonderful support and donations for our CSSDAR American Indian Scholarship Funds and for Bacone College, Chemawa Indian School, and Indian Youth of America Summer Camp Program funding, and for all the wonderful community services that you do in your cities and towns supporting our Native American communities. It's also a great pleasure to welcome Pam Fair, Regent of San Diego Chapter, Pam Hightower, Etta Miller, and Nina Hall, 3 members of the Cherokee Nation and members of the San Diego Chapter, sharing their genealogy and being Cherokee, bits about culture, history, and celebration. Thank you for joining us today for this wonderful gathering and sharing this beautiful presentation.
Hello, I'm Pam Fair. I'm the regent of the San Diego chapter of DAR, and I hope you enjoy the recording that you're about to see. This presentation was originally made in June of 2020. It was for a virtual gathering for our chapter of DAR, and we're happy to share it with you today. I'll start by introducing the 3 presenters that you're about to see, and let's start with Pam Hightower. Pam Hightower is shown here with Principal Chief Hoskins of the Cherokee Nation and Miss Cherokee. Pam has been a DAR member for over 25 years, and she served in many positions in our chapter, including librarian and chair of the American Indian Committee. Pam's presented an Indian Minute at our monthly chapter meetings for years, and the chapter members really look forward to those well-researched and interesting Indian Minutes. Pam is a registered member of the Cherokee Nation. She's very proud of her Cherokee heritage. Her grandmother was half Cherokee. Pam is a founding member of San Diego's Cherokee community and continues to serve as a council member. In 2018, she was honored to be officially recognized as a Cherokee Elder by declaration of the Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation, which is what is pictured here. Thanks, Pam, and we all appreciate the work that you put in to this great presentation. And next, I'll show you a picture of our presenter, Etta Miller. Etta has been a DAR member since 2009. She's been really active in our chapter, including serving 7 years as parliamentarian. Etta is 7/16 Cherokee. She's a tribal member of the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. She was raised in Oklahoma on an 80-acre parcel of land that was allotted to her family over 100 years ago by the General Allotment Act. And let me show you a picture of that land. It's really beautiful. And you can picture on this property, there used to be a building referred to as the Old Home Place, which is where Etta and many of her siblings were born. She and her family still own and visit that land. Etta has also been honored to receive the title of Elder of the Cherokee Nation, and she's also a council member of the San Diego Cherokee community. She also is a member of the Pocahontas Club, which she tells me could loosely be referred to as the Cherokee DAR. And thank you very much, Etta. I know everyone will be interested in your stories. They're so fun. And here's Nina at the right. She's pictured here with Principal Chief Hoskins and his wife January at the left. Nina is Etta's daughter. She joined DAR in 2009 along with her mom. She's 7/32 Cherokee, according to her degree of Indian blood card, which is issued by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And she's also a tribal member of the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. Like our other two speakers, she's a council member of San Diego's Cherokee community. She's also a member of the Pocahontas Club. Although Nina is a native San Diegan, she keeps in close contact with much of her large Cherokee family in Oklahoma and Arkansas. She enjoys visiting them, and she also visits that land in Oklahoma that I just showed. She even talks about potentially building a house there someday. Thanks, and I hope that you all enjoyed today's program.
So for our presentation today, Etta, Nina, and I thought it'd be fun and educational to tell you a little bit about our tribe, the Great Cherokee Nation, and about the annual Cherokee National Holiday, which celebrates Cherokee history and culture. But to begin with, I think it'd be best to briefly explain what it means to be Cherokee and what our history is as a tribe. So many of you have heard me do the Indian Minute, and I always begin with Osio, which is the Cherokee word for hello. And I think Etta has some Cherokee words to share with us. Etta?
Sio Tawicha. That means hello, how are you? My great-grandmother Bushyhead and her daughter, my grandma Fields, talked to each other in Cherokee, and they were sitting on Grandma Fields' back porch, snapping green beans, and I hid around the corner of the house where I could hear them, but they couldn't see me, and I thought they sounded so musical. I was about 6 years old, and my dad taught us to ask for our food at the table in Cherokee, and the only thing I remember is Selu Gadu, which means corn I want. And I have two nephews who live in Tahlequah, and one of them teaches Cherokee, and the other one is transcribing Cherokee onto the computer. And also, I can count to 5 in Cherokee. Sagwa, Tali, Cha, Na, Kisk.
Thank you, Etta. And if you're interested in hearing or learning a few phrases in Cherokee, the Cherokee Word of the Week on YouTube is very helpful and it's fun to use. Have you ever wondered what the word Cherokee means? It is actually a Creek word meaning speakers of another language or people of a different speech. The original name the Cherokee called themselves was Niyang Wiya, which meant the principal people. But today Cherokee is fine too, although we say it as Chalagi, which is Cherokee. Okay, the Cherokee language is a language of syllables. The Cherokee were the first Indian tribe in the United States to have a written language, thanks to a Cherokee silversmith named Sequoyah. Sequoyah invented the Cherokee syllabary around 1809. It consists of approximately 86 characters, each one representing a different syllable in the Cherokee language. And here's a drawing of Sequoyah and his syllabary. It's actually from my shirt that I'm wearing today. It's difficult to see the syllabary in the drawing, but you'll notice that he's wearing a turban. So turbans did not originate with the American Indians. So why did the Cherokee wear turbans? Well, the story of the Cherokee turban goes back to the 18th century when several Englishmen took a small group of Cherokee chiefs and warriors to meet King George. Just before they were to enter the throne room, the Englishmen decided that the Cherokee were not dressed properly. They were bare-chested and their heads had been plucked free from their head. Excuse me, their hair's been plucked free from their heads, except for a single scalp lock. So the Englishmen found some old linen shirts and turbans left over from some officials from India. They dressed the Cherokee in this attire to meet the king. The Cherokees were allowed to keep these items when they were brought back to the villages. They began to wear the highly treasured turbans for ceremonies and special functions. And turbans are still worn today, but mostly by men. I made one. I'm wearing one out of a scarf that I made. But presently, there are 3 federally recognized Cherokee tribes. The Cherokee Nation of northeastern Oklahoma, of which Etta, Nina, and I belong. The Eastern Band of Cherokees of North Carolina, and the United Keetoowah Band of Cherokees of Oklahoma. About 200 years ago, the Cherokee Indians were one tribe. They lived in the southeast part of what is now the United States. But due to voluntary relocations and then the Indian Removal Act of 1830, and also the Cherokees who remained behind, the tribe split into 3 tribes. Of these 3 tribes, the Cherokee Nation is the tribe best known for traveling the Trail of Tears. Now, it's called the Trail of Tears, or the Trail Where They Cried, because of its devastating effects. In 1838 and 1839, after gold was discovered on their land, and as part of Andrew Jackson's Indian removal policy, the Cherokees were forced to give up their lands east of the Mississippi River and to migrate to an area in present-day Oklahoma. The routes they took were called the Trail of Tears. Approximately 16,000 Cherokees were on the Trail of Tears. It took 3 months for them to travel the 1,200 miles to Indian Territory, now Oklahoma. More than 4,000 of them died along the way due to disease, starvation, and exposure. Now here's a photo of part of the trail as it looks today. And there were actually 4 different routes that the Cherokee took. Added up, the routes covered over 5,000 miles across 9 states: Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. Today, the Trail of Tears National Historic Trail is run by the National Park Service, and portions of it are accessible on foot, by horse, by bicycle, or by car. And Etta, would you like to tell us about your story of your family and the Trail of Tears?
Yes, my 4th great uncle, Jesse Bushyhead, led one of the wagon trains, and his son, Edward Wilkerson Bushyhead, came on that trail, and he was the first editor of the San Diego Union. And my 4th great grandfather, Charles Bushyhead, came along with his brothers, Jacob and Isaac, and sister Nancy, whose great great grandson was our former chief, Chief Bill John Baker, my 4th cousin.
Well, my brother did some research and told me that our family ancestors were part of an earlier group of Cherokees who went to Oklahoma just prior to the Trail of Tears. Currently, the Cherokee Nation has more than 300,000 registered tribal members, making it the largest of the 574 federally recognized Indian tribes in the country. Etta, Nina, and I are registered members of the Cherokee Nation, and we are very proud of our Cherokee heritage. Registered members are issued membership cards, and this is what my Cherokee Nation photo ID card looks like. And I have to thank Pam Fair for blocking out my date of birth. We all know I'm an elder, but I'm not going to tell you how old I really am. So how does a person become a registered member of the Cherokee Nation? Well, it's all because of the Dawes Act and the Dawes Rolls. The Dawes Act of 1887 authorized the federal government to divide up communal tribal lands into separate parcels and institute a system of individual ownership, overriding existing treaties and tribal laws. In order to allot the lands, citizens of the 5 civilized tribes were registered by the U.S. government. And this included the freedmen, who were African Americans formerly enslaved or adopted by the tribes. Now, the Dawes Rolls are the list of individuals who were accepted primarily between 1899 and 1906 as eligible for tribal membership in the 5 civilized tribes. And do you know which tribes make up the 5 civilized tribes? I bet many of you do. They are the Cherokee, the Creek, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and the Seminole. Today, these 5 tribes continue to use the Dawes Rolls as the basis for determining tribal membership. They usually require applicants to provide proof of descent from a person who is listed on the rolls. And if you're interested, you can view the rolls on the National Archives Catalog website. And my grandmother is listed on the Dawes Rolls. She was 4 years old at the time. And Etta, would you like to talk about your ancestors who are on the Dawes Rolls?
Yes, Daddy was enrolled when he was 6 months old, and his number was 17677. And the Cherokee Indian agent would come to our school with his car loaded with things for the Cherokee kids. And we had to know Daddy's roll number. So it was memorized when we started to school. The agent had bolts of material we could select 3 yards from 3 different bolts, and Mama made us 3 new dresses. And the shoes they gave us looked just like little Abner's big old black high top clog. He also gave us green wool World War I overcoats, and Mama made me a coat out of one. It was scratchy, but it was warm.
Thank you. Well, Pam Fair has some information she'd like to share with us about her research on to her Cherokee heritage. Pam?
Thanks, Pam. Yeah, as we were talking, I was sharing a story with the ladies. I also grew up being told that I was part Cherokee. Perhaps some of you who joined us today have had a similar experience. My father's family is from East Tennessee, and there's a lot of Cherokee influence and history there. So it was plausible. And so many years ago, I decided to look and see if I could find which generation included my Cherokee ancestor that I hoped was there. If you end up doing any research and it goes into the eastern United States, you may come across this roll, the Ewan Miller roll. The Ewan Miller roll is a list of Eastern Cherokees who applied for money in 1906 as a result of a lawsuit where the Eastern Cherokees sued the United States for funds that were due to them under several treaties, and the lawsuit was decided in favor of the Cherokee. So you come across that, and what's really easy to find online is a list of the people who applied to be on the Ewan Miller roll, which looks like this. And so on the Ewan Miller roll, when you look at applications, you might find names that are familiar. Of course, whether you're from Tennessee or not, some of these names still may look familiar. I found, in fact, 3 names on this list that were on my family tree. I've underlined one here, John A. Price. And I proceeded then to get the original application documents from the National Archives to see if I could find my link to the Cherokee Nation. So it's interesting, as with all research, you never know what you'll find, but the 3 applications that I got back from the National Archives showed that all 3 of those people were rejected essentially they didn't prove their descent from the Cherokee. And what was even more interesting is that 2 of them, including John A. Price, turned out not to be my relatives at all. Instead, they were people, with the same name who were in Tennessee at the same time. So I have to say I started doubting whether it was Cherokee at all. When you look online, you see a term Cherokee wannabe, and I think there's a lot of us who are like this, because there are many, many people who believe they're part Cherokee. I also had the ancestry DNA done a few years ago, which showed no sign of American Indian. So anyway, at this point, I think I'm probably not any Cherokee at all, but it's a really fun family myth. And I suppose there are many people, though, who really are part Cherokee who don't show up on either of these rolls, which I think Pam was going to touch on. So that's my story.
Yeah, thank you, Pam. Yes, it's quite possible. Many of you are Cherokee. You've probably been told that you were Cherokee by other family members. And as we mentioned with the Dawes rolls for the Cherokee Nation, in order to be a registered member with that particular tribe, you have to prove descent from someone who is on the rolls. Now, there were some Cherokees who didn't get on the rolls, like those who left the area before the rolls were completed, or those who had passed away, or people who just didn't want to be on the rolls. So it's unfortunate that maybe you don't have a way to prove it, but it's quite possible that you are Cherokee, but it all goes back to the Dawes rolls and proof of descent from that. So thank you for sharing your story, Pam. So let's get on to the fun part, the Cherokee National Holiday. So what's so special and interesting about this particular holiday anyway? Well, we wanted to talk about it because it is a mingling of most things Cherokee. The celebration offers a wide assortment of entertainment and social and educational activities and events, while it embraces Cherokee history, culture, and heritage. And the holiday is a very, very big deal. And here's a poster of the 2010 holiday celebration. The principal chief of the Cherokee Nation personally gave me this poster. The principal chief is the head chief of the entire Cherokee Nation. He's like a president to our tribe. And we have elections every 4 years too. And I did attend a holiday celebration when I was a child, but I don't remember too much about it. But why does the Cherokee Nation have this holiday anyway? Well, the official seal of the Cherokee Nation might be able to shed some light on the subject. And we're going to show that to you. When it comes on, take a look at the bottom of the seal. The date listed is September 6, 1839. So why is that date so important that it's on our official seal? Well, that is the date that the Cherokee Nation's Constitution was signed, joining the Cherokees together after the Trail of Tears. The Cherokee Nation celebrates that date every September to recognize and acknowledge the adoption of their 1839 Constitution. And I read that this year's celebration will be a virtual one. So we'll put a link in that email that we're sending to you so you can get some more information.
And the Cherokee National Holiday Celebration has many entertainment, cultural, and athletic events and has grown into one of the largest festivals in Oklahoma, with over 100,000 visitors attending annually. The holiday has been celebrated every year since 1953. It takes place over Labor Day weekend in the Cherokee Nation capital of Tahlequah, Oklahoma. It's a multi-day celebration jam-packed with sports activities for all ages, from traditional games such as Cherokee marbles, the cornstalk shoot, and blowgun competition to more familiar golf, volleyball, and softball tournaments. Hundreds of vendors and craftspeople are there selling authentic Native American products and food. There are many musical events, including gospel, bluegrass music, a native flute playing, and a fiddler's contest and a concert performed by the Cherokee National Youth Choir. In addition, there is a parade, stomp dancing, storytelling, children's games, and fun hands-on traditional craft demonstrations. A powwow, fireworks display, and State of the Nation address by the principal chief are included, and much more. You can see a listing of events and activities on the Cherokee National Holiday event page on the Cherokee Phoenix website. The Cherokee Phoenix is the official newspaper of the Cherokee Nation, and it's the first newspaper published by an American Indian tribe. Here's Pam showing newspaper.
I'm showing one of the editions, and the Cherokee Phoenix not only is published in English, but it's also published in Cherokee. So a major attraction of the festival is the Miss Cherokee pageant. Young single Cherokee women living within the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation are eligible to participate. Miss Cherokee serves as a goodwill ambassador and messenger, promoting the government, history, language, and culture of the Cherokee Nation. And here's a photo of Miss Cherokee from 2016. She is wearing a traditional Cherokee tear dress. The dress is basically made of squares and rectangles of fabric which have been torn into patches, thus the term tear dress, as in rip and tear, not tear as in the Trail of Tears, as I used to think. And the word traditional is a little misleading. It's actually a modern dress. A situation arose in 1968 when a young Cherokee woman was chosen as Miss Indian America. She had competed and was crowned in a Kiowa buckskin dress she had borrowed from a college friend. After this incident, the principal chief and the National Council of the Cherokee Nation decided that it was best that the tribe had its own traditional dress. So they immediately appointed a committee of Cherokee women to find something more appropriate for Miss Cherokee to wear that would reflect Cherokee tradition, history, and style. The committee came up with the tear dress, having discovered a similar handmade dress in a grandmother's trunk. And so the Cherokee tear dress was born and became the official tribal dress for women of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma by proclamation of the National Council. Now all participants in the Miss Cherokee pageant are required to wear a Cherokee tear dress at the pageant. And I believe that the Cherokee Nation is the only tribe in the country that has an official dress per proclamation. And if you're interested in learning more about the tear dress and how it's made, there's some good websites, and we'll provide a link to that. And also, I just want to show you, I have a Cherokee tear dress pattern that I got online, and we'll provide a link to that as well.
Arts and crafts demonstrations are very popular at the holiday celebration. You can buy finished products or you can make some yourself. Cornhusk doll making, beading projects, and quilting are just a few that come to mind. One craft unique to the Cherokee that you can make at the festival is the Cherokee double wall basket. It's called a double wall basket because that is exactly what it is. There are 2 layers of weaving, 1 layer going up and 1 layer going down, which gives the basket strength and durability. Baskets are used for storage and were often as large as our last laundry baskets are today. To make one yourself, you can find good instructions and step-by-step photos on the internet. You can also buy kits online, which give you supplies and instructions you'll need. The Cherokee are well known for their beautiful paddled pottery. Here are some photos of a bowl being made. The clay is pressed with a paddle that has a design carved into it. The design is then imprinted into the pottery to make a beautiful pattern. And here's another picture of some more beautiful bowls.
Yes.
Pam?
Thank you. Yes. And if you're hungry, there's food galore at the festival. Of course, fry bread is a staple, but I made some great dumplings. And these are traditional Cherokee dumplings. I'm going to take a bite because they're so good. It's so good. The Cherokee would get, yeah, I'm going to give you guys the recipe in that link because I was telling Pam Fair over the weekend, oh, it's to die for. It really is. The Cherokee would gather grapes to make juice, but nowadays they buy store-bought juice and make the grape dumplings with that. They roll out the dumpling dough, cut it into small pieces, and drop into boiling grape juice for about 10 minutes. And it's delicious served warm with ice cream. And like I said, we'll be sending you a link to that recipe. Wipe my mouth. So good. Okay, some Cherokee sports played during the holiday include the games of Cherokee marbles and stickball, and the cornstalk shoot and the blowgun competition, among other sports. The Cherokee marbles is an ancient game that is still popular today. Cherokee marbles is played on a 5-hole L-shaped field about 100 feet long. To win the game, the team's supposed to be the first to make it through the course and back, knocking the opponent's marbles out of the way as they go. Marbles were originally carved out of stone, but billiard balls are used today. And the game is similar to croquet, but without the mallet. The cornstalk shoot goes back to the time when Cherokee hunters and warriors would compete for accuracy with their bows and arrows. And here's a photo of a cornstalk shoot. You can see the bundle of cornstalks tied together. To keep the tips of arrows from breaking, and the participants shot through a large bank of dried corn stalks, and the score is tallied by the number of stalks that the arrow tips penetrate. And then the game of stickball in prehistoric times was played as a way for tribes to settle disputes without going to war. Games could last for days. The stickball is still played today. It's similar to lacrosse, except the ball is carried and thrown with 2 sticks rather than a single stick. And nowadays, there's a 25-foot pole in the middle of the field with a wooden fish on top of it instead of a goal. Players get points when they hit the fish. And in the blowgun competition, the shooter shoots a dart at a target. The Cherokee made extensive use of blowguns to hunt birds and small game. And there's it's made out of river cane, and there's a river cane there in the photo. The Cherokee blowguns were usually 6 to 8 feet long with a range of 60 feet. And blowgun darts were never poisoned because the Cherokee were hunting small game, and they thought that the poison would contaminate the meat. And here I've got, maybe you can see it, the river cane looks like bamboo, and then they would just blow the dart through the river cane.
The stomp dance is an important social and religious ritual for Cherokees, and it is part of the national holiday as well. Stomp dances are opportunities for Cherokees to have fellowship with the Creator and to celebrate the gift of fire. A sacred fire is stoked at early dawn and burns throughout the night. The sacred fire has been a part of Cherokee culture since long before the white man arrived on the shores of this country. The sacred fire was kept burning in the council house of each village and was used to light the fires of every Cherokee household. It was a symbol of strength and unity among the Cherokee people. And when the Cherokee people were forced onto the long, heartbreaking journey of the Trail of Tears, the sacred fire of the Cherokee people traveled the trail with them. The term stomp dance is an English term, which refers to the shuffle and stomp movements of the dance. It's a dance in the round. The order of dancers is male, female, male, female, and the dance is usually led by a male elder who developed his own songs. The dancers circle the fire in a counterclockwise direction with slow stomping steps set to rhythm created by women dancers wearing turtle shell shakers on their ankles. As many as several hundred people may join the dance circle. The dance frequently continues throughout the entire night until the dawn of the next day. You can watch some videos of stomp dances on YouTube.
Yeah, and I was asked, what do they wear when they do their stomp dance? And typically they wear just everyday clothes, cowboy hats, cowboy boots, but some of them wear the traditional ribbon shirt. And here's a photo of a gentleman wearing a blue one, and you can see that he has ribbons on his shirt that have been sewn on. And I've got my own ribbon shirt here. Hopefully you can see it with the ribbons on the bodice. And then there are ribbons on the sleeve. I'm not wearing it today because I ordered the wrong size. So I have to get it altered. But it is a traditional dress that can be used in the stomp dance. Okay, storytelling is fun and an entertaining part of the Cherokee national holiday. Through the centuries, storytelling is and has been important in Indian culture. It was very popular, especially during the cold winter months when the people mostly stayed inside. The stories almost always had a meaning. Some explained how things came to be, like how the earth was created or why roses have thorns. Other stories carried a message on how to behave and what would happen if you were good or bad. So I thought I would share with you a Cherokee story about the first fire, or how the Cherokee water spider captured fire. And it all pertains to this photo here. It's a drawing of the Cherokee water spider. And you see there's a mark on her back, the mark of a cross. And there's a story about that. And here it is. For many years, the animals had no control of fire. They had always seen the forest fires and the lightning. They knew that the fire was powerful, beautiful, and dangerous. There came a time that the world seemed to be getting colder, and the animals began to discuss among themselves the idea that they needed fire for their homes and the homes of people. If a tree caught on fire, maybe they could capture some fire and keep it. Sure enough, the time came that a sycamore tree, which stood out in the water of the river, was burning. The animals decided that it was time to capture the fire. A crow came along and said, "I believe I can get some of that fire." He was a brown crow. And he flew into the fire, but came out covered in black soot. He is the black crow we know today. A little snake darted by and said, "I'm very fast, let me try." He darted in and got so scared that still today he's darting around, keeping away from the fire. Next, one of the owls tried to get the fire. He dived into the flame, but burned his hair off the top of his head. Another owl tried, but he came out quickly with burn marks on his eyes like we see today. Other animals tried, but with no success. The water spider watched carefully. She knew she could go toward the bottom of the tree on the water and maybe she would not get burned. But how would she carry and protect the fire from the water? She needed something to carry the fire so that it wouldn't get wet. So she wove a little basket out of her web to carry the fire. She carried the basket on her back and began to walk across the water to the base of the burning tree. She put some hot coals in her basket, put the basket of coals on her back, and then carefully came back across the water. When she got to the edge of the river, she had coals so that the animals could have their own fire. But the coals had burned through a piece in the basket, and the lowly water spider, who had prepared and risked herself, carries the basket on her back and the mark of the fire still today. And the moral of the story is, never take someone smaller than you for granted, because a small person can still save the world. And that concludes our presentation. There were many websites mentioned, and we'll get a list of them to you in an email. And I hope that Etta, Nina, and I have been able to provide you with some insight and interesting information about the Cherokee Nation.
Presentation that you just watched referenced several websites. Those websites are listed on the document that is in front of you on your screen. I will scroll slowly through this if you'd like to jot anything down, or if you would like a copy sent to you, feel free to go to our chapter website at sandiego.californiadar.org and send an email to the regent. You can do that by going into Contact Us, and we will email a copy to you. Thanks again.